In the heart of Lagos, where the streets pulse with life and the air is thick with the scent of spices and the chatter of vendors, Balogun Market stands as a testament to the city's hustle and bustle. It's here that Amara, a young and determined fabric seller, spends her days hawking her wares, dreaming of something more. Amara's stall is a humble affair, tucked away in a corner of the market, but her aspirations are anything but small. With each passing day, she dreams of expanding her business, of opening a boutique that would rival even the most exclusive shops in the city. But for now, those dreams remain just that, dreams. As the sun sets on another bustling day in Balogun Market, Amara counts her meager earnings. A furrow of worry crazing her brow. The reality of her situation weighs heavy on her shoulders. Her family's financial struggles, her father's mounting medical bills, her siblings' school fees, all resting squarely on her shoulders. Despite the weariness that settles into her bones, Amara refuses to give up. With each new dawn, she returns to her stall with renewed determination, believing that one day her dreams will become a reality. Little does she know that day may be closer than she thinks. As the market begins to wind down for the night, Amara finds herself lost in thought, her mind drifting to the possibilities that lie beyond the confines of Balogun Market. It's then that she notices a figure lurking in the shadows, watching her every move with intent. Her heart skips a beat as she locks eyes with the mysterious stranger, a shiver running down her spine. Who could it be, and what do they want with her? Before she can gather the courage to confront them, the figure disappears into the night, leaving Amara alone with her thoughts and a sense of unease that refuses to dissipate. As she packs up her stall for the night and makes her way home through the dimly lit streets of Lagos, Amara can't shake the feeling that something is about to change. Little does she know her life is about to take a dramatic turn, and the dreams she had held onto for so long are on the verge of becoming a reality. But with opportunity comes risk, and Amara will soon find herself faced with choices that will test her resolve and push her to the brink. Will she seize the chance to make her dreams come true, or will she let fear and uncertainty hold her back? Only time will tell as Amara's journey unfolds, but one thing is for certain: nothing will ever be the same again in the heart of Lagos. The next morning, Amara arrives at her stall with a sense of anticipation tingling in her veins. Little does she know, today will be the day that changes everything. As she arranges her fabrics and straightens her display, a well-dressed man approaches, his eyes scanning her goods with interest. Mr. Olumide is a wealthy businessman known for his investments in local enterprises. He introduces himself to Amara and explains that he's into the process of opening a new hotel in Lagos. "I've heard great things about your fabrics," he says with a smile. "I'd like to offer you a contract to supply my hotel with exclusive designs." Amara's heart races with excitement. This is the opportunity she's been waiting for, the chance to take her business to the next level. But even as she nods eagerly, a voice in the back of her mind whispers a warning. Nothing good ever comes without a price. Mr. Olumide outlines the terms of the contract, detailing the quantities and designs he requires and the timeline for delivery. Amara listens intently, her mind racing with possibilities. With this contract, she could finally make her dreams a reality, but she knows it won't be easy. As Mr. Olumide finishes speaking, he fixes Amara with a penetrating gaze. "I believe you, Amara," he says softly. "I know you have what it takes to make this work, but remember, time is of the essence. The sooner you can deliver, the better." Amara nods, her determination solidifying into resolve. She thanks Mr. Olumide for the opportunity and promises to do everything in her power to meet up his expectations. As he walks away, a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions swirls in her mind. With the contract from Mr. Olumide in hand, Amara's dreams suddenly feel within reach. But there's one problem. She doesn't have the capital to fulfill such a large order. Determined not to let this opportunity slip through her fingers, Amara turns to her friend Chike, who runs a small loan business in the market. Chike is sympathetic to Amara's plight and agrees to lend her the money she needs, but with a caveat. She must repay him within a month with interest. Desperate and with no other options, Amara reluctantly accepts, knowing that failure is not an option. With the loan secured, Amara dives headfirst into production. Day and night, she and her small team of assistants work tirelessly, cutting, sewing, and stitching until their fingers are raw and their eyes heavy with exhaustion. But despite their efforts, the deadline looms even closer, and the pressure mounts with each passing day. Amara finds herself caught in a whirlwind of activity, juggling orders, managing her team, and overseeing her aspect of production. The days blur together, each one blending into the next as she races against the clock to fulfill her end of the bargain. But even as she throws herself into her work with single-minded determination, doubts nag at the back of her mind. What if she can't meet the deadline? What if the quality of her work isn't up to Mr. Olumide's standards? What if she's beating off more than she can chew? As the days turn into weeks, the pressure mounts, threatening to crush Amara beneath its weight. But she refuses to give up, drawing strength from the knowledge that her dreams are within reach, if only she can hold on a little longer. Just as Amara begins to feel the weight of the world bearing down on her shoulders, disaster strikes. Her stall is engulfed in flames, threatening to consume everything she's worked so hard to build. Is this the end of her dreams before they've even begun? The flames danced hungrily, devouring everything in their path as Amara watched in horror. Her stall, her livelihood, her dreams, all consumed by the fire's merciless embrace. For a moment, she stood frozen, unable to tear her eyes away from the devastation unfolding before her. But even as despair threatened to consume her, a fierce determination took hold of Amara's heart. She refused to let this be the end, refused to let the flames snuff out the light of hope that burned within her. With a steely resolve, she sprang into action, rallying her fellow vendors and bystanders to help extinguish the inferno. Hours passed in a blur of chaos and confusion as the fire raged on, but finally the flames were quenched, leaving behind a smoldering ruin in their wake. Amara surveyed the charred remains of her stall, her heart heavy with grief and disbelief. How could this have happened? Who could have done this to her? As the crowd dispersed and the reality of her situation sank in, Amara felt a surge of anger boiling within her. This was no accident, no act of nature. It was sabotage, pure and simple. But who would want to destroy her business? And why? With these questions swirling in her mind, Amara set out to uncover the truth. She began by questioning her fellow vendors, but none of them had seen anything suspicious leading up to the fire. Frustrated and no closer to finding answers, she turned to Chike, her friend and the one who had lent her the money to fulfill the contract with Mr. Olumide. Chike's expression was grim as he listened to Amara recount the events of the previous night. "I'm sorry, Amara," he said, his voice heavy with regret. "I never should have lent you the money. I should have known this would happen." Amara's heart sank at his words. She had hoped that Chike would have some insight into who might want to harm her, but it seemed that even he was at loss. Desperate for answers, she racked her brain, trying to think of anyone who might have a motive for targeting her. And then it hit her. Kemi, the rival vendor who had always eyed Amara's success with envy and resentment. Could she be behind the fire? It seemed plausible, but Amara knew she would need more than just a hunch to prove it. Determined to get to the bottom of things, Amara set out to gather evidence against Kemi. She enlisted the help of her friends and family, scouring the market for witnesses and clues that might lead them to the truth. But Kemi was a crafty adversary, and no matter where they looked, they found nothing that definitely linked her to the fire. As the days turned into weeks, frustration gnawed at Amara's insides. She was no closer to finding the person responsible for destroying her stall, and with each passing day, her chances of fulfilling her contract with Mr. Olumide grew slimmer. She could feel the weight of the deadline bearing down on her, threatening to crush her beneath its relentless pressure. But just when it seemed like all hope was lost, a glimmer of light appeared on the horizon, a breakthrough in the investigation that could finally lead them to the truth. With renewed determination, Amara set out to follow the trail wherever it might lead, knowing that the answers she sought were within reach. As Amara delves deeper into her investigation, she uncovers a shocking revelation that turns her world upside down. The person behind the fire is someone she never would have suspected, someone she trusted implicitly. Will she have the courage to confront them and seek justice, or will she be consumed by the betrayal that threatens to tear her life apart? The revelation hit Amara like a punch to the gut, leaving her reeling in disbelief. How could someone she trusted, someone she considered a friend, be responsible for destroying her stall? It didn't make sense, and yet the evidence was irrefutable. With a heavy heart, Amara confronted the truth. Kemi, her rival vendor, had been behind the fire all along. It was a bitter pill to swallow, knowing that someone she had once considered a friend had betrayed her in such a callous manner. As anger and betrayal churned within her, Amara struggled to make sense of it all. What could Kemi possibly have to gain from destroying her business? And more importantly, how could she ensure that justice was served and that Kemi faced the consequences of her actions? With these questions weighing heavily on her mind, Amara sought counsel from those closest to her. Together, they formulated a plan to gather evidence against Kemi and bring her to justice. It wouldn't be easy, but Amara was determined to see it through to the end. Days turned into weeks as Amara and her allies worked tirelessly to build their case against Kemi. They interviewed witnesses, collected statements, and gathered evidence, leaving no stone unturned in their quest for the truth. But Kemi was a formidable adversary, and she wasn't about to go down without a fight. As the evidence against her began to mount, Kemi grew increasingly desperate. She launched a smear campaign against Amara, spreading lies and rumors in an attempt to discredit her and undermine her credibility. But Amara refused to be silenced, standing firm in the face of adversity and refusing to back down. Meanwhile, the deadline for Amara's contract with Mr. Olumide loomed ever closer, adding an extra layer of pressure to an already fraught situation. With each passing day, the weight of the deadline bore down on her, threatening to crush her beneath its relentless pressure. But Amara was not one to give up easily. With the support of her community rallying behind her, she redoubled her efforts to fulfill her end of the bargain. Day and night, she and her team worked tirelessly, cutting, sewing, and stitching until their fingers were raw and their eyes heavy with exhaustion. Despite the obstacles in her path, Amara refused to let anything stand in the way of her dreams. She had come too far to let Kemi's treachery derail her plans, and she was determined to see them through to the end, no matter the cost. And then, just when it seemed like all hope was lost, a breakthrough occurred, a piece of evidence that could turn the tide in Amara's favor. With renewed determination, she set out to present her findings to the Market Association, knowing that this could be her last chance to set things right. But as Amara prepares to make her case before the Market Association, she receives a chilling message from an unknown sender, warning her to back off or face dire consequences. Who could be behind this sinister threat, and what do they stand to gain from silencing her? As fear grips her heart, Amara realizes that the stakes are higher than she ever imagined, and the road ahead will be more treacherous than she ever dared to believe. Will she have the courage to face her fears and seek justice? Or will she succumb to the darkness that threatens to consume her? The message sent chills down Amara's spine, its ominous words echoing in her mind long after she had read them. Who could be behind such a sinister threat? And what did they stand to gain from silencing her? As fear gripped her heart, Amara knew that she couldn't afford to back down now, not when so much was at stake. With a steely resolve, Amara brushed aside her fears and focused on the task at hand. She had come too far to let anyone or anything stand in the way of justice, and she was determined to see her mission through to the end, no matter the cost. But as she prepared to present her findings to the Market Association, a sense of unease settled over her. The stakes were higher than ever before, and the road ahead would be fraught with danger and uncertainty. With each passing moment, the deadline for her contract with Mr. Olumide drew nearer, adding an extra layer of pressure to an already tense situation. Despite the mounting obstacles in her path, Amara refused to give up hope still, and with the support of her friends who had been helping her before, she pressed forward, determined to uncover the truth and to bring Kemi to justice. But Kemi was a formidable adversary, and she wasn't about to go down without a fight. As the day of the meeting with the Market Association approached, tension hung in the air like a thick fog. Amara could feel the weight of the moment bearing down on her, threatening to crush her beneath its relentless pressure. But she refused to let her fears hold her back, knowing that the time for action was now. The meeting began with all the pomp and ceremony befitting such an occasion, but beneath the surface, a sense of unease lingered. Amara could feel the eyes of the other vendors boring into her, their whispers and murmurs like a swarm of bees buzzing in her ears. But she stood tall, her chin held high, and her gaze unwavering as she presented her findings to the Market Association. With each piece of evidence she laid before them, the tension in the room grew thicker until it felt almost suffocating. And then, just as it seemed like all hope was lost, a breakthrough occurred. A witness stepped forward with testimony that could turn the tide in Amara's favor. With bated breath, she listened as the witness recounted the events of the night of the fire, painting a damning portrait of Kemi's guilt. As the truth came to light, a hush fell over the room, broken only by the sound of Amara's pounding heart. She knew that this was her moment, her final chance to bring Kemi to justice and clear her own name once and for all. But as she prepared to deliver the final blow, a commotion erupted in the back of the room. A group of masked thugs burst through the door, their faces twisted in rage and malice. Panic swept through the crowd as chaos descended upon the meeting, leaving Amara and her ally scrambling for cover. Amara finds herself trapped in a deadly game of cat and mouse, fighting tooth and nail to defend her livelihood and uncover the truth. But as the masked thugs closed in around her, she realizes that the road ahead will be more treacherous than she ever imagined, and the battle for justice has only just begun. Will she emerge unscathed, or will she become another casualty in the fight for truth and righteousness? The sudden eruption of chaos in the Market Association meeting left Amara disoriented. The masked thugs, brandishing weapons and shouting threats, seemed intent on one purpose: to silence her. Amara's heart pounded as she dove for cover behind a table, the cacophony of screams and breaking furniture filling the air. The other vendors scattered, some fleeing in terror, while others attempted to shield themselves from the onslaught. Amara's mind raced as she tried to make sense of the situation. Who had sent these thugs? Was it Kemi, desperate to protect herself, or someone else with a darker agenda? Amara's thoughts were interrupted by a sharp pain in her arm. She glanced down to see a thin line of blood where a piece of shattered glass had cut her. Gritting her teeth against the pain, she scanned the room for any sign of her friends. To her relief, she spotted Chike huddled behind a pillar, his eyes wide with fear, but locked onto hers. They needed a plan, and they needed one, fast. The thugs were methodical in their approach, moving through the room with precision. Amara could see Kemi near the front, her face a mask of fear and confusion. It was clear she hadn't anticipated this level of violence. The realization sent a shiver down Amara's spine. This was bigger than just a rivalry between two vendors. Taking a deep breath, Amara motioned to Chike, signaling that they needed to find a way out. As if understanding her intent, Chike nodded and began to inch his way towards her, staying low to avoid the thug's notice. Amara followed suit, her movements slow and deliberate. As they reached each other, Chike whispered, "We need to get to the back exit. There's a narrow alley we can use to escape." Amara nodded, her eyes scanning the room for any sign of the thugs. They seemed preoccupied with causing as much destruction as possible, giving them a small window of opportunity. Together, they began to crawl towards the back of the room, staying low and using overturned tables and chairs as cover. The journey seemed to take an eternity, each second stretching into an agonizing minute, but finally they reached the back exit, a heavy metal door that led into the alley. Chike pushed it open with a creak and they slipped through, the cool night air hitting their faces like a balm. For a moment, they stood there, catching their breath and letting the reality of their escape sink in. But the sound of approaching footsteps spurred them into action. They couldn't afford to stop now. "We need to get to a safe place," Chike said, his voice urgent. "My cousin has a workshop nearby. We can hide there and regroup." Amara nodded, trusting Chike's judgment. Together, they made their way through the dark, narrow alleyways of Lagos. Their steps, quick and quiet. The city's usual hustle and bustle seemed distant, replaced by an eerie silence that only added to their sense of urgency. Finally, they reached the workshop, a small nondescript building tucked away in a quiet corner of the neighborhood. Chike knocked on the door in a specific pattern, and after a moment, it swung open to reveal a tall, muscular man with a stern expression. "Chike, what happened?" the man asked, his eyes flicking to Amara with curiosity. "No time to explain, Ebuka," Chike replied, pushing past him and pulling Amara along. "We need a place to lay low for a while. It's a matter of life and death." Ebuka's expression softened and he nodded, stepping aside to let them in. "You can stay here as long as you need," he said, closing the door behind them and locking it with a series of heavy bolts. Inside, the workshop was cluttered but cozy, filled with woodworking tools and half-finished projects. Amara sank into a chair, the adrenaline of the night's events slowly giving way to exhaustion. She glanced at Chike, who was already deep in conversation with Ebuka, explaining the situation in hushed tones. As Amara's thoughts began to settle, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something. The thugs' attack had been too coordinated, too deliberate to be a random act of violence. Someone powerful was behind this, someone who wanted to ensure she never uncovered the truth. But who and why? These questions gnawed at her, keeping her mind racing even as her body begged for rest. She knew that the answers lay somewhere in the tangled web of deceit and corruption that surrounded her, but finding them would be no easy task. As the first light of dawn began to filter through the workshop's small windows, Amara made a decision. She wouldn't let fear of intimidation stop her from seeking justice. She would continue to dig to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. Just as Amara steels herself for the challenges ahead, a loud knock echoes through the workshop. Ebuka freezes, his eyes starting to the door. "Did anyone see you come here?" he whispers urgently. Before Chike can respond, the door bursts open and the room is flooded with armed men. The leader steps forward, a cold smile playing on his lips. "Thought you could hide, did you?" he sneers. Amara's heart races as she realizes they are trapped. Who are these men and what do they want? Will Amara and her friends manage to escape, or is this the end of the line? "There's nowhere left to run," the leader said. "Now tell us what you know, or things will get very unpleasant." Amara glanced at Chike and Ebuka, their faces mirroring her own fear and determination. She knew they had to think fast, but the odds were stacked against them. As the men closed in, a new plan began to form in her mind. Just as Amara prepares to make her stand, a sudden noise from outside distracts the men. The sound of approaching sirens grows louder and the men exchange nervous glances. This isn't over. The leader growls before signaling his men to retreat. As they disappear into the night, Amara receives a cryptic message on her phone. This isn't just about Kemi. Trust no one. The truth is closer than you think. Her heart races as she realizes that the web of deceit is even more tangled than she had imagined. Who sends the message, and what deeper secrets are waiting to be uncovered? Amara knows that the path ahead is fraught with danger, but she's more determined than ever to see it through. The fight for justice has only just begun. The sirens faded into the distance, leaving an eerie silence in their wake. Amara stood in the middle of Ebuka's workshop, her thoughts racing. The cryptic message on her phone was unnerving. This isn't just about Kemi. Trust no one. The truth is closer than you think. She felt the weight of the unknown pressing down on her, but she couldn't afford to succumb to fear. Chike and Ebuka looked equally bewildered, their eyes darting around the room, as if expecting the masked men to return at any moment. Amara knew they needed to act quickly. The encounter had confirmed her suspicion that they were up against a powerful and well-organized adversary. We need to figure out who sent this message, Amara said, showing her phone to Chike and Ebuka. It might be our only lead. Chike frowned reading the message. Trust no one. That's not very reassuring. Ebuka nodded. It means someone is watching us, knows what we are doing. We have to be extremely careful. Amara took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart. Okay, let's start with the basics. Kemi is clearly part of something much bigger. She's not the mastermind, just a pawn. We need to find out who's pulling the strings. But how? Chike asked, frustration evident in his voice. We don't have much to go on. Actually, we do, Amara said, a plan forming in her mind. We need to get to the root of this. I have a contact in the media who might be able to help us dig deeper. If we can expose this conspiracy, we might have a chance to stop them. Chike and Ebuka exchanged worried glances but nodded in agreement. Alright, Chike said, let's go. They left the workshop under the cover of darkness, making their way through the labyrinth alleys of Lagos. Amara led them to a small, nondescript building nestled between larger, more imposing structures. She knocked on the door in a specific pattern, just as Chike had done earlier. After a moment, the door creaked open, revealing a middle-aged man with a weary expression. Amara? He asked, surprise flickering in his eyes. Yes, Kunle, I need your help, Amara said, urgency in her voice. We are in serious trouble, and I think you might be the only one who can help us. Kunle stepped aside, allowing them to enter. The interior of the building was cramped, but filled with various pieces of technological equipment, computers, printers, and stacks of documents. It was clearly the workspace of a journalist accustomed to dealing with sensitive information. What's going on? Kunle asked once they were all inside. You look like you've seen a ghost. Amara quickly recounted the events of the past few days, from the fire that destroyed her stall to the attack by the masked men. Kunle listened intently, his expression growing grimmer with each passing detail. This is serious, he said when she finished. If what you are saying is true, then you are dealing with something much bigger than a simple market dispute. This goes all the way up. We know, Amara said. That's why we need your help. We need to find out who's behind this and why they're targeting us. Kunle nodded, his mind already working through the possibilities. Alright, I'll see what I can dig up. But this isn't going to be easy. Whoever these people are, they have resources and influence. We'll need to be very careful. He turned to his computer, fingers flying over the keyboard as he began his search. Amara, Chike and Ebuka watched anxiously, the tension in the room palpable. Minutes ticked by in silence, broken only by the soft clacking of keys. Finally, Kunle leaned back, his face etched with concern. I found something. There are records of large financial transactions linked to Kemi's accounts. The money is coming from a shell company, an offshore account. It's all very well hidden, but it looks like the money is being funneled through multiple layers to obscure its origin. Can you trace it back to its source? Amara asked, hope flickering in her chest. I'm working on it, Kunle said, but it's going to take some time. These people know what they're doing. They've covered their tracks well. As Kunle continued his work, Amara's phone buzzed with another message. Her heart skipped a beat as she read it. They know you are digging. Watch your back. She showed the message to Chike and Ebuka, their faces mirroring her own fear. We need to stay vigilant, she said. They're onto us. Just then, Kunle's eyes widened in alarm. I think I found something, he said, his voice urgent. The money is linked to a powerful businessman in Lagos. A man named Chief Olumide. He's known for his ruthless business practices and has ties to several politicians. If he's involved, this goes all the way to the top. Chief Olumide, Amara echoed, her mind racing. He's one of the most influential men in Lagos. No wonder they are trying to silence us. Kunle nodded. We need more evidence if we are going to take him down. But be careful. He has his eyes and ears everywhere. As they discussed their next move, a loud knock echoed through the building, freezing them in their tracks. Amara's heart pounded as Kunle moved cautiously to the door, peeking through the small window. It's the police, he whispered, his voice tense. They're asking for you, Amara. Fear surged through Amara. Had they been found out? Were the police in Chief Olumide's pocket? She motioned for Chike and Ebuka to hide, then took a deep breath and opened the door. Yes, officer? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady. The officer's eyes were hard, his expression unreadable. We have some questions for you, he said, about your involvement in recent disturbances in the market. Amara felt a chill run down her spine. This was it. She had to decide whether to trust the police or to run. As Amara considers her options, the officer steps forward, revealing a hidden badge beneath his uniform. I'm not here to arrest you, he whispers urgently. I'm here to help, but we don't have much time. Chief Olumide knows everything. We need to move now. Amara's mind races with confusion and hope. Can she trust this officer, or is it another trap? And what new dangers await them if they follow him? The clock is ticking, and Amara must decide quickly before their enemy is closing. Amara's heart raced as she stared at the officer. His words echoed in her mind. Chief Olumide knows everything. We need to move now. The urgency in his voice was unmistakable, but trust was a rare commodity these days. Who are you? She demanded, trying to keep her voice steady, despite her fear gnawing at her insides. The officer glanced around nervously before answering. Detective Ojo, I've been investigating Chief Olumide for months. I've seen what he's capable of, and I know you have too. If you don't act now, he'll make sure none of us get out of this alive. Kunle stepped forward, scrutinizing the detective. How do we know you're not working for him? This could be a trap. Ojo pulled out a small encrypted device from his pocket and handed it to Kunle. This is my insurance. It contains all the evidence I've gathered against Olumide. If anything happens to me, it goes public. I need your help to finish this. Amara exchanged a glance with Chike and Ebuka, who had emerged from their hiding spot. They were all thinking the same thing. This might be their only chance. Alright, Amara said, making the decision for all of them. We'll go with you. But if you betray us, you have my word. Ojo interrupted, his expression sincere. Let's move. They left Kunle's office quickly and quietly, slipping into the shadows of Lagos' labyrinth streets. The city was eerily quiet, the usual hustle and bustle replaced with an oppressive stillness. Amara could feel eyes on her, the sensation of being watched ever present. Ojo led them to a safe house, a dilapidated building that looked abandoned from the outside, but was fortified within. As they entered, Amara couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap, but desperation and the need for allies pushed her forward. Inside, Ojo introduced them to his team, a small group of dedicated officers who had been working undercover to dismantle Chief Olumide's operations. The air was thick with tension, but there was also a palpable sense of resolve. We've gathered substantial evidence against Olumide, Ojo explained, spreading documents and photos on a table. But we need more to ensure he's put away for good. That's where you come in, Amara. Your testimony and evidence you've collected can tip the scales. Amara looked at the photos, transactions, meetings, surveillance images of Olumide with various officials. It was overwhelming, but it also gave her hope. They weren't alone in this fight. We need to be strategic, Ojo continued. Olumide has eyes everywhere. He expects us to make a move. We have to outsmart him. Kunle, who had been silent, finally spoke. What's the plan? Ojo pointed to a map of Lagos. There's a warehouse on the outskirts of the city. It's one of Olumide's key operation centers. If we can get in there and secure the documents they are storing, we'll have enough to bring him down. And how do we get in? Chike asked skeptically. With stealth and precision, Ojo replied. I have a contact inside who can help us bypass security, but it's risky. We'll need to be in and out before anyone realizes we are there. As the group strategized, Amara's phone buzzed with another message. They are closer than you think. Be ready. Her blood ran cold. She showed the message to Ojo, who frowned. Someone's watching us, he said. We need to move now. The team geared up quickly, checking weapons and equipment. Amara felt a mix of fear and adrenaline. This was it, their chance to take down Chief Olumide once and for all. They moved through the city under the cover of night, avoiding main roads and sticking to back alleys. Amara's heart pounded with each step, the weight of their mission pressing down on her. As they approached the warehouse, Ojo's contact, a man named Tunde, met them at a side entrance. We don't have much time, he whispered. Security is tight, but I've disabled a few cameras. Follow me. Tunde led them through a maze of corridors, the sound of their footsteps echoing softly. The warehouse was massive, filled with crates and documents. They needed to find the right files and get out before anyone noticed their presence. Ojo split the team into groups, each tasked with different sections. Amara, Chike and Ebuka were assigned to the main office where the most critical documents were likely stored. They moved swiftly, sifting through files and photographing everything that looked important. Time seemed to stretch, each second feeling like an eternity. Just as they were about to finish, the sound of footsteps echoed down the hallway. Hide, Amara hissed, diving behind a stack of crates. Chike and Ebuka followed suit, their breaths shallow as the footsteps grew louder. A group of guards entered the office, their conversation casual. Security's been acting weird all night, one of them said. You think something's up? Maybe, another replied, but orders are orders. Just keep an eye out. They lingered for what felt like hours but was likely only minutes, then finally left, their footsteps fading into the distance. Amara exhaled slowly, motioning for Chike and Ebuka to continue. They gathered the remaining documents quickly, then signaled to Ojo they were ready to leave. As they made their way back through the corridors, a sudden noise stopped them in their tracks. The unmistakable sound of an alarm. Their cover was blown. Run! Ojo shouted, and the team sprinted towards the exit, the warehouse erupting into chaos around them. They burst out into the night, the sound of shouting guards and blaring alarms behind them. Their vehicles were parked a few blocks away, hidden in an abandoned lot. They had to make it there before the guards caught up. Amara's lung burned as she ran, adrenaline pushing her forward. She could hear Chike and Ebuka close behind, their footsteps pounding against the pavement. The night air was cool, but she felt a bead of sweat trickle down her back. They reached vehicles just as a group of guards rounded the corner. Go, 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 go! Ojo yelled and they piled into the cars, engines roaring to life. The chase was on. The narrow streets of Lagos blurred past as they sped through the city, dodging obstacles and weaving through traffic. The guards were relentless, their cars closing in with every turn. We need to lose them, Chike shouted from the back seat, his voice tight with fear. Working on it, Amara replied, her focus on the road ahead. She took a sharp turn, the tires screeching in protest. The guards followed, their pursuit unwavering. Amara glanced at the documents they had retrieved, her heart sinking. They had the evidence, but getting into safety was another matter. They couldn't let Olumide's men catch them. Just as hope began to fade, she swerved into an alley, the narrow passage barely wide enough for their car. The guards hesitated, their vehicles too large to follow. "That will buy us some time," Ojo said, his voice grim. "But we are not out of the woods yet." They navigated the alleyways, finally emerging onto a quieter street. Amara slowed the car, breathing heavily. "We need to get to a secure location and review what we've got." They had escaped, but the danger was far from over. They needed to regroup to find a way to use the evidence without getting caught. As they drove towards the new safe house, Amara's phone buzzed with yet another message. "You are closer than you think. Trust only those who have proven themselves." Her heart skipped a beat. Who was this mysterious ally? Could they really trust them? Just as they arrived at the safe house, a figure stepped out of the shadows. It was Kemi, her face bruised and eyes wide with fear. "You have no idea what you are up against," she said, her voice trembling. "Olumide is just the tip of the iceberg. There is something much bigger at play, and they're coming for all of us." Amara felt a chill run down her spine. The conspiracy was deeper than she had imagined. The real danger was only just beginning. The final showdown was imminent, and the stakes had never been higher. Amara stood frozen, her eyes locked on Kemi. The woman who had been the catalyst for this entire nightmare now stood before her, a harbinger of even greater danger. The shadows under Kemi's eyes and the bruises on her face told a story of desperation and fear. Whatever information she had, it was crucial. "You need to tell us everything," Amara said, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her insides. "We don't have much time." Kemi nodded, her gaze darting around nervously. "Olumide is a part of a larger network. He's a major player, but there are others. Politicians, businessmen, even law enforcement. They call themselves the Syndicate. They control everything from the shadows." "The Syndicate?" Chike echoed, his face pale. "I've heard rumors, but I thought it was just a conspiracy theory." "It's real," Kemi insisted, "and they know you are onto them. They won't stop until you are silenced." Detective Ojo frowned, absorbing this new information. "We need to get this evidence to someone who can act on it. Someone outside their influence." "Who can we trust?" Ebuka asked, his voice edged with frustration. "They've got their claws in every major institution." Kunle, who had been quiet, stepped forward. "There's one person, Justice Eze. He's been known to take on corruption cases and has a reputation for being incorruptible. If you can get the evidence to him, we might stand a chance." Ojo nodded. "He's our best shot, but we have to be smart about this. We can't just walk into his office. The Syndicate will be watching." As they discussed their plan, the air in the safe house grew heavy with tension. Every creak and rustle outside made them jump, their nerves frayed to the breaking point. Amara felt the weight of the world on her shoulders, but she knew they had to press on. Too many lives depended on them. They decided to split up to increase their chances of success. Kunle would contact Justice Eze and arrange a secret meeting. Amara, Chike, Ebuka and Kemi would move to a different safe house to throw off any pursuers. Ojo and his team would act as decoys, drawing attention away from the others. Kunle handed Amara a burner phone. "Use this to stay in touch. We'll meet at the designated location once everything is set." Amara nodded, feeling a pang of fear as she looked at her friends. This was it, their last desperate gamble. "Stay safe, everyone," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. They left the safe house under the cover of darkness, each step echoing with the possibility of discovery. Amara's heart pounded as she led the way through the deserted streets, every shadow a potential threat. After what felt like an eternity, they reached the new safe house. It was smaller and more decrepit than the last, but it would have to do. They settled in, waiting for Kunle's call. Hours passed in tense silence. Amara paced the small room, her mind racing. What if Kunle had been caught? What if the Syndicate was already onto them? Just as doubts began to creep in, the burner phone buzzed. "It's Kunle," Amara said, answering quickly. "What's the update?" "Justice Eze agreed to meet." Kunle's voice crackled through the line. "He will be at the old courthouse in an hour. It's a secure location and we'll have a small window to get in and out." "We're on our way," Amara replied, hanging up. She turned to the others. "This is it. We need to move now." They left the safe house and made their way to the courthouse. Sticking to the shadows, the tension was palpable, every step bringing them closer to the showdown that would determine their fate. As they approached the courthouse, Amara felt a chill run down her spine. The building loomed ahead, dark and foreboding. They slipped inside through a side entrance. The interior eerily quiet. Just as Eze is in his chambers, he whispered, "We need to move on quickly." They followed Kunle down a series of twisting hallways until they reached a heavy wooden door. Kunle knocked, and a moment later, the door creaked open, revealing an older man with a stern expression. "Justice Eze," Amara said, stepping forward. "Thank you for seeing us." Eze nodded, his eyes sharp and assessing. "I've been briefed on your situation. Show me what you have." They spread the documents and photos across his desk, explaining everything they had uncovered. Eze listened intently, his expression growing darker with each revelation. "This is damning evidence," he said finally. "If we can present this to the right authorities, we can take them down, the Syndicate. But it won't be easy. They will do everything in their power to stop us." "We are ready," Amara said, determination in her voice. "Just tell us what to do." Eze stood, gathering the evidence. "We need to get this to the federal investigators. They have the resources to act quickly and decisively, but we have to move now." As they prepared to leave, the sound of footsteps echoed down the hallway. Amara's heart skipped a beat. They had been found. "Get down!" Ojo hissed, pulling them into a nearby room. They hid behind crates and furniture, holding their breath as the footsteps grew louder. The door to the room burst open and a group of armed men stormed in. Amara recognized them immediately, Olumide's thugs. They scanned the room, their eyes cold and ruthless. "Search everywhere," one of them barked. "They can't have gone far." Amara's heart pounded in her chest. They were trapped. If they were found, it would all be over. As the men began their search, a noise from outside the room drew their attention. "What was that?" one of them muttered, heading towards the door. Taking advantage of the distraction, Ojo motioned for them to move. They slipped out of the room and into another corridor, the exit just ahead. Amara felt a surge of hope. They were so close, but just as they reached the door, another group of men appeared, blocking their path. A tense standoff ensued, the air thick with the promise of violence. "Drop your weapons," one of Olumide's men snarled, aiming his gun at them. "You are not going anywhere." Amara's mind raced. They needed a miracle. And then, as if on cue, a series of loud bangs echoed through the corridor. The sound of gunfire erupted and chaos ensued. Ojo's team had arrived, engaging Olumide's men in a fierce firefight. Amara and the others took cover, adrenaline surging through their veins. Go, get out of here!" Ojo shouted over the noise. "We'll hold them off." Amara hesitated, but Kunle grabbed her arm. "We need to go now." They ran towards the exit, bullets whizzing past them. Just as they burst through the door, a deafening explosion rocked the building, sending them sprawling to the ground. Amara's vision blurred, her ears ringing from the blast. She struggled to her feet, helping Chike and Ebuka up. They were battered but alive. "We have to keep moving," Kunle urged, guiding them towards the waiting vehicle. Justice Eze is already on his way with the evidence. They piled into the car, speeding away from the courthouse. Amara looked back, the flames and smoke, a stark reminder of the battle they had just escaped. "Will they be okay?" she asked, her voice shaking. Kunle nodded, his expression grim. Ojo and his team knew the risks. They would do whatever it takes to buy us time. As they drove through the city, Amara felt a mix of relief and fear. They had the evidence, but the danger was far from over. The Syndicate wouldn't give up easily. Finally, they reached a secure location, a small nondescript building that served as a safe house for federal investigators. Justice Eze was waiting for them, the evidence already in his possession. "You did well," he said, his tone firm. "This is just the beginning. We'll need to move quickly to ensure the Syndicate doesn't regroup." Amara nodded, feeling a sense of purpose. They had struck a blow against the corruption that plagued their city, but the fight was far from over. There would be more battles, more challenges, but they were ready. As they settled into the safe house, Amara received one final message on her burner phone. "You've done well. The battle is won, but the war is just beginning. Stay vigilant." She looked at her friends, their faces reflecting the same determination she felt. They had faced unimaginable danger and come out stronger. Together, they would continue the fight, uncover the truth, and bring justice to those who had suffered. The road ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: they would not back down. The Syndicate's reign of terror was ending, and a new dawn was breaking over Lagos. Just as he started to relax, the safe house phone rang. Amara answered, her heart pounding. "You think you've won, but this is far from over." A chilling voice on the other end said, "We are everywhere and we are coming for you." The line went off. But one question was deep into Amara's thoughts. Why was the Syndicate after her, an innocent fabric seller who was always in her fabric store in Balogun Market? What did she have to offer, and what was the reason why they came after her? Was she going to spoil any of their plans? This she pondered. These thoughts kept swelling her mind.